Well, a new bombshell investigation exposes Facebook's growing struggle to tackle hate speech in Myanmar.
Facebook, Twitter, Google, all testifying today on social media's role in spreading misinformation and extremism.
The social media site has been used to incite violence.
People looking at the same platforms and having totally opposite experiences of the world, emerging with totally opposite feelings such that they cannot even communicate with each other in real life anymore.
Effective propaganda usually is so subtle that it's very difficult to spot. So, for example, in the course that it's going to be offered in the spring, students watch the documentary The Forbidden Films.
Und während also 70.000 Deutsche, die Anstaltspatienten waren, die psychisch krank waren, die als Kinder behindert geboren worden sind, ermordet wurden, ist dieser Film konzipiert und gedreht worden.
Naja, das ist ein Film über Tötung auf Verlangen, der auch, so wie ich ihn gesehen habe, auch abklopfen will, wie stehen die Deutschen zu der damaligen Zeit zur Tötung von Nervenkranken und Behinderten.
Weil ihr Leiden unmenschlich war. Weil der Mensch über dem Tode stehen muss, wenn es darauf ankommt. Darum habe ich sie erlöst.
The clip you just watched is from a documentary called Forbidden Films, and you might wonder, what does this have to do with social media and youth activism from a global perspective? The film they were talking about, titled I Accuse, is a Nazi propaganda film. Keyword, propaganda. This is something that we may have all encountered in different forms on some of the most influential social media platforms. We interviewed Professor Kozlowska to talk about her course, Social Media and Youth Activism from a Global Perspective, to give you an insight on the types of discussions that will take place in class. The previous documentary is just one of the many topics of conversation.
So hello everyone, my name is Anna Kozlowska-Barrios. I'm assistant professor and reference librarian here at UIC. I've been teaching the Honors College since spring 2020, and I teach two courses. So the first one, the one offered in spring, it's Media and Information Literacy in a Global Context, and the one that I teach in fall is Social Media and Youth Activism from a Global Perspective. So the major theme of the course is online activism and participatory politics in general. And the goal of the course is to connect local and global issues concerning young people with the role of information and media in democratic societies. Now, the course approaches media information literacy from a multidisciplinary perspective and introduces students to our various social media campaigns and activists. Important part of the course is honing the critical thinking skills and critical analysis of information and representation in media, so the intersection of race, gender, geographic location, and geopolitics in general. And also students work on kind of various assignments, but one of them, for example, is a group project where they need to think about how the media and information literacy could be used to tackle some problems. So like, let's say this year they chose to approach such problems as, for example, plastic use, plastic consumption in student center east, or vaccinations for undocumented immigrants. So basically, whatever that would be, of their interest, they are working on some way on a project, how media information literacy could address that. Effective propaganda usually is so subtle that it's very difficult to spot. So, for example, in the course that it's going to be offered in the spring, students watch the documentary The Forbidden Films, which is about propaganda during World War II. There is a propaganda that is very subtle. And going back, to this documentary, there's, for example, a scene when a woman, she's sick and she wants euthanasia, basically, and is asking her husband to perform it on her. And like anyone who is seeing the image, you feel for this woman, and yes, and it's very, very touching. It's very touching your emotions. However, this particular, thing was used to justify killing of people with disabilities.
During the fall semester, Frances Haugen, Facebook whistleblower, testified before Congress. Was this something that the class had touched upon?
So, because it was actually during the semesters, I did mention that, and I did ask students to follow the case. However, it was this part was going beyond the scope of the course in the fall. But we're going to return to that in this course in the spring. As this course in the spring, it's more about the intersection of state, corporate interest, and individual choice. So definitely the Hogan case, and I don't know if you heard about it, but for example, Rohingya right now sued the Meta for inciting, Meta means former Facebook, for inciting violence, ethnic violence. We'll see how those things will develop, but definitely we will talk about. We'll talk about the engagement-based ranking. We'll talk about whether it leads to more extremism and further polarization of societies, worldwide. Also, we will talk about the already existing regulation and perhaps, what type of regulation should be introduced. Also, how it affects, let's say, the Article 19 of the Human Rights Convention about the freedom of speech and expression, or that will be the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. And most of countries, they do have some form of protection of speech and expression. So how also this, interferes with that. So definitely we're going to have rich discussions about it this semester. I feel incredibly privileged working with honors college students. I am amazed by you guys, every single day. I think, you bring something, at least what I see, in our class discussions. It's not like we all agree over there. Of course, people have different opinions. They bring their identities, into those discussions. But to me, observing how you talk to one another and this kind of, way of how you really want to understand the world. This is absolutely for someone, who has the privilege to teach, it's amazing. And I'm being really grateful that I also can learn so much from you. So yeah, that's basically what I wanted, to add. I think the Honors College is a fantastic program, and I hope it's going to continue, that way. And it makes me very, very hopeful for the future.